Which material was the most absorbent?
The most absorbent material was the feather.
Which material was the least absorbent?
The least absorbent material was the cotton.
At the end of your experiment, how well did you clean up the oil?
The oil wasn't cleaned up and we sort of killed everyone.
What would you change if you had to do the lab again?
I would have separate containers so that each material could have the same amount of oil to absorb. That way, instead of having the first material absorb more oil than the others, the last material could absorb the same amount as the first.
At the end of your experiment, how well did you clean up the oil?
More than 3/4 of the oil in our experience was cleaned up. Describe some of the problems your group faced when trying to clean up the oil.
A miniature tropical storm occurred, and the oil was most likely spread out all over the bin.
Which material was the most absorbent?
The most absorbent for my group was the Dawn dish soap.
Which material was the least absorbent?
For my group, it was the sponge.
Okay. At the end of your experiment, how well did you clean up the oil?
We didn't have very much cleaned up because the oil kept coming so fast we couldn't clean it up in time.
Okay. Describe some of the problems your group faced when trying to clean up the oil.
My group didn't face very many problems except that we couldn't clean up all the oil.
Okay.
How many of your animals died?
Only one of our animals died.
No.
Describe what occurred as you tried to clean up the oil spill.
Most of the stuff got up, some of the residue, but we couldn't all clean it up. And we put out the boom too quickly, so we couldn't grab a bunch of the oil from getting on the sand.
Okay. I have to go.
Was your hypothesis correct? Explain why.
Yes, my hypothesis was correct because it predicted that the feathers would absorb the most oil.
Which material was the most absorbent and the least absorbent?
The material that was the most absorbent was the feathers, and the one that was the least was the Dawn detergent.
How many animals died?
Out of the 4 animals, 3 animals died.
As you tried to clean up the oil spill, at the end of your experiment, how well did you clean up the oil?
As the oil kept spreading, it got harder to clean up, and at the end of the experiment, about 1/4 of the oil was left.